Hello, everybody. We are live. I'm seeing those numbers just flooding in. That's very exciting because a minute ago it was attendees zero. Joanna assured me it would all work out. Welcome, welcome. Throw in the chat who you are, where you're calling in from today. I really like to see the globalization uh, of the audience. I like to see where everybody is. I'm in Berkeley, California myself. Um, you can see it from my Berkeley Theater Mom ensemble today. Atlanta, Georgia, excellent. Joanna's in LA, Heather's in Houston. Oh, this is exciting. Um, Scottsdale, Toronto, Des Moines. Ooh, fun. I don't know about any of you with kids. My kids are really into the map of the US. Really like to see wherever everybody is. So maybe it's genetic. Hello, Nicole in San Diego. Oh, Eleni in Greece. Yes. St. Cloud. I don't know if y'all are having as much fun with that as I am, but I am having a great time seeing where you all are calling in from. Um, let's get started. This is a workshop. It is not a presentation. It is not uh, a webinar or a talking heads. You've been talked at a lot, I'm sure, and you are filling your heads with great knowledge. But now we're going to do something with our little fingers. Um, I won't call on you unless you want to be called on. That's my number one rule. If you can be as active as you want to be, but I will say that you will get more out of this the more that you do. Um, and some of that doing can be on your own quietly, and some of that doing can be out loud. So here we are. Let's just take one big brush together because, as my friend Catalina likes to say, I am very California. Let's all be here together. Take one big breath in, breathe out, turn off your notifications, be present in this moment for half an hour. It's a gift you're giving yourself for 30 minutes here, maybe 40. We'll see how it goes. So we're here to talk about the power of storytelling in HR. So y'all have probably felt often at work. I know I have. Nobody listens, right? You spend days crafting your messaging. Nobody reads it. People ask you questions. You're like, if I have to answer that question one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. So why are people not listening? Because often we're talking in facts and not stories. Stories connect us to each other. They provide context, emotional connection. I like to say that stories make us care and caring makes us remember. But this is not just me, like person who likes stories. This is recent research. And I pulled this fact literally out of an article from the CMO that came out today. Stories are remembered 22 times more than facts. So are the messages you're sharing internally at your company explaining facts, providing information, or are they telling a story that people will actually remember? What we are going to learn today. This is the, technical, you can put this on your notes to your boss about why you attended this webinar, why you're attending this workshop. Here's the fancy corporate speak. Practical employee approaches to help employees connect their stories to your company's mission. Tactics for leveraging storytelling to influence the C-suite, using narrative to build connected cultures, enhancing your communication, blah, 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 blah. Technical speak. Really, what we're learning is how to think like a storyteller, a marketer, a journalist, and a person who people will actually listen to when you work in HR. So, backing up a minute, why me? Why am I doing this presentation in the first place? Why do I care so much about this? I spent the last 15 plus years in people and HR leadership, mostly in tech companies. But before that, I grew up in theater. My specialty was literary management, which is like editing new works and helping playwrights shape their plays, and helping to bring the world of the play to life. If you know the word dramaturgy, you get a gold star. If you didn't know it before today, now you know. A dramaturg is the person who helps bring the world of the play to life through uh, research, through storytelling, through uh, helping people see the things that they're not necessarily seeing to help bring the whole picture together. And it wasn't until recently that I really started looking backwards and realizing that all of these things are marketing, all of these things are HR. These things are all parts of what makes a really great HR leader. A marketing friend of mine likes to say that I am an HR moon with a marketing rising for my tarot and astrology friends out there. And I really think that building a bridge between HR and marketing is one of the best ways for HR to be heard and understood. I share this on the right here. You don't have to read it. I'm not going to read it out loud. But this is secret career as a creator. I realized most recently when I was updating my resume that there are all of these things that I've done in my career because I've been curious about stories, because I love stories, and because I have always wanted to know how can we get people more information, and not just by telling them things, not just by throwing books at them, not just by giving them a bullet pointed list of all the things they need to know, but by really making them care about the thing that I need them to know. Simran, I have looked at my sun sign like 10 times, and every time I look it up, I forget instantly what it is. And so I'm choosing to believe that my sun sign does not matter that much to me. I really need to just learn more about my sun sign, clearly. Um, but let's get started in here together. We're going to learn by doing. So the first section of this session is about thinking like a marketer. So marketing 101, this was something a VP of marketing told me early in my career, was all of your communications should be founded in this basis of think, feel, and do. This is based on attention, interest, desire, and action, which is a framework from like the late 19th century. I was doing a bunch of research preparing for this presentation about where this came from. And as questionable origins, there's like many different people credited with this idea of attention, interest, desire, and action. They're mostly old white dudes. I don't really care where it came from exactly. But the modern concept of think, feel, do is a lot easier to remember and gets across the same point. So when you are telling people something, uh, how do you want to impact their minds? What do you want them to think about? How do you want to impact their hearts? What do you want them to feel as a result of this communication? And what do you want them to do? How do you want to impact their actions? So we're thinking about hearts, minds, actions when we think about all of our communications in HR. A real world example that I have used 1,000 times. You have an employee engagement survey. It's about to go out. Participation is not always high, but like you really want participation to be high, right? Like you want to be able to validate your vibes with data so that you can then tell the story with that data to your executive team. Um, that could be a whole other real world example as you have your engagement survey results and now you need to tell the executive team a story. But for right now, we're gonna just be focusing on sending the survey out itself. So what do you want employees to think? You want them to think that you care about their feedback and you will use their feedback, right? You want them to feel seen and heard, and you want them to feel more connected to the company by participating in this survey. And what do you want them to do? You want them to fill out the damn survey because how many survey reminder emails can you send out before you lose your mind? I don't know, seven. I just made that up, but I mean, show of hands, put a put a emoji of your choice in the chat if you have sent out an employee engagement survey and sent out like a billion reminders just to try to get people to participate. Show me your favorite frustrated emojis. Oh yes, I love the melty face. That's how I feel whenever I'm trying to get people to do something at work. Yes, it makes you angry, makes you tired and melty. I love the like steam puffing out of your nostrils. So this next slide is a bit long. You don't have to read all of it. I will send these out afterwards. But as an example, when you're sending a message out to people, it's not just, it's time to take the employee engagement survey, please fill it out, right? That's a little basic and doesn't give people a connection, doesn't give them something to feel. It's just giving them a task to do. Um, so I crafted this example message as a way to demonstrate. So what do you want them to think about? You want them to think that you will read their feedback and that you care about their feedback and you'll respond to it. So we're going to do that by telling them in our last survey, here's what you said, and here's what we did, reminding them of this thing because while you may have spent the last 6 months thinking about the engagement survey every single freaking day as you were trying to launch this comp philosophy and incorporate manager feedback because that's what people said they wanted. They don't remember that they said that 6 months ago. If their manager isn't doing a great job, they're still going to think it's not being done. So it's really important to remind them of the story, remind them of the story that you're trying to get them to connect to. Of 6 months ago, you told us this and we did this. Obviously, we can't address every single piece of feedback, but your feedback is what helps us prioritize. And so that's you're getting them to think and feel about your relationship to the survey, their relationship to the survey, not just HR needs us to do this survey, but here's how we use it. Here's why we do it. Here's why you, the employee, should care about doing it. And then the action at the end is here's what we want you to do. But that's just an email, right? And that's just one email. The marketing rule of seven, whoever coined this, I really could not find an origin story for this on the internet. But the marketing rule of seven says that customers should encounter your marketing message 7 different times before they make a buying decision. So, how are you getting in front of your customers? Your customers being the employees at your company. What are a few places besides sending out an email that you might communicate a message about the engagement survey launch? Throw them into the chat. I'll read stuff out loud as people are saying it. But what are some different places besides sending out an email reminder or sending out the, survey software automated invitations? How else might you as HR get this message in front of people? All hands is a great place. Yep. Slack is a great place. Oh my God, having to DM everyone individually, that is a nightmare. Oh, I like the idea, Teresa, of a voicemail to staff out in your community. That's especially great. And Amanda, flyers with QR codes. If you have a staff that's not all digital, if you have a team where you have warehouse workers or on-site employees, maybe employees who are not all on Slack, who are not all in their email every day. I worked with a client who had multiple offices, but they also had people out in the field. And how are those field employees getting access to participate in the survey? Your internal intranet is a great place to put this stuff. And having places where you have the ability to link back to your main core message while also putting the message in front of them in a lot of different ways, whether that's a video or a voicemail or um, you're getting up in front of the company in person, or you're giving managers a message to deliver to their employees out in the field. Um, Lots of different ways. You cannot over communicate this stuff unless you're just doing the same thing over and over and over. Like you can over communicate by sending too many emails, but if you vary it up, then they're seeing the message in a lot of different places. I love the idea of combining analog and digital. So now we're going to think like a journalist. So if you think about your role in HR, you are constantly doing research, right? You're constantly picking up clues and gathering information to present your messaging that you need to message. So we're going to turn this on its head a little bit and think in the language of journalism. We have our 5 W's. They're classics for a reason: who, what, where, when, why, and also how. So all of your messages that you send out, uh, you're probably including this. You're saying who, uh, of the story. Who is the who? What is the what? Where is this happening? When and why? But when I think about the 5 W's in relation to internal communications, I get a little meta and I think about it also in terms of the communication itself. So I flip the what and the who because chances are, if you are in HR, you're not starting with who do I need to talk to? You're starting with what do I need to tell people? So we'll start with our what. What is the message? Who is it going to? Where am I sharing it? When am I sharing it? Why should they care? And all of that bundles up to become the how. So get out your pens and papers or your doc or whatever you want to take notes in. We're going to do a little activity. So, all of you, I imagine, have something going on at work that you're going to need to communicate. You are going to announce promotion soon. You have a batch of new hires starting next week. You're planning for changes to your benefits. Maybe there's a layoff or a reorg or something kind of painful happening soon. Maybe you have to deliver feedback to your executive team, or maybe there's a performance review cycle coming up. Think for a minute about one specific thing that you are going to be working on communicating over the next month or so. Write that thing down. That is your what, and that is what we're going to play with today. Each of us individually, just to orient you in time and space, we're going to go through those 5 W's. And then at the end, I'll take volunteers for who wants to share their breakdowns. So start, we'll give you like, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. Think about just one thing. It's got to pick one that you're going to play with and workshop and use as your sample communication. Very strange being in webinar mode and not seeing like a gallery view of everyone's faces. But I trust that you are all there because I see your names in the chat. All right, everybody wrote down their what? Give me a thumbs up in the chat, or I'm just going to go with it because I can't see you. Thanks, Carrie and Nadia. I'm leaning on you. Great. Three is a quorum. I'm calling it. Okay. So now think about who you were trying to communicate this thing to. Chances are you will have to communicate this thing to many people, but we're going to start with just one. Um, you can make your list right now of all of the people, but then we'll choose one to focus on for the rest of the activity. So there might be individual people that are involved with this scenario. There might be teams, there might be specific departments or groups like management or leadership. It might be communications the whole company's going to have to have. And there might even be external components. Like, is this something that's going to be announced publicly? Because even though external communication is usually driven by marketing, it's really helpful if your people team and your marketing team work together on external communication, especially when it's something that involves, say, a product launch. Maybe you want to feature people from the product team, or when you're talking about a reorg or a leadership departure or a layoff or something that's going to be announced publicly, you want to make sure that your internal and external messaging is aligned. So think about who is going to need to receive this what that you created, and then just pick one of those groups to zero in on today. Take a few minutes, take our time. It's gonna be great. Who are you going to talk to? Now, the second bonus who is on your crew? Who might you need to lean on or collaborate with to communicate with that who? So if your what is changes to our benefits, you might need to communicate with your insurance broker. You might need to communicate with managers and collaborate with someone on the design team to make a new benefits brochure if you're not making that yourself, right? Like there's other people that you are going to do this communication with. It's not just you alone. Um, we'll be talking in a minute about kind of timeline and scoping for communications cadence, but for now, think about who are all the other people that don't just need to receive the communication, but need to be your allies, your stakeholders, your people that you're partnering with to get this across. Make a quick short list, realistically, use their names. Does Bob from accounting need to help you communicate changes to your payroll process? Are you going to need uh why can't I think of any human names right now? Does Teresa need to coordinate with the managers that she is the HRBP for? Who are your people? Thank you, Teresa, for having a name and being in the chat. You can always add to this later. So now thinking back to that rule of seven and people needing to receive your message in seven different places, where are you going to share this story? Once you have crafted your narrative and you know who needs to receive it, who's going to help you work on it, how many different places can you share this? What format does your audience actually pay attention to? Your exec team might receive information in a different way than your broader staff. Your staff on the retail front lines might receive information in a different way from your corporate headquarters employees. Your Spanish speaking employees might receive things in a different way. This is a great way to weave in your DEI work, thinking about inclusive communications. Are you providing communications in an accessible way? Accessible for people with different hearing and seeing abilities, different neuro processing abilities? Are you sharing it in writing? Are you sharing it in audio and video? Are you sharing it live? Are you sharing it in a way where people can process it on their own? Depending on the kind of the seriousness or the scope of the communication, you might need to scale this up or down. Not every announcement or communication from HR requires presence at an all hands meeting, but maybe yours does. uh, depending on how big or small this communication is. You can scale up and down, but list out at least five possible communication channels that are specific to your company, to your what that you are communicating. All right. Now, this one might be a little bit more complicated. These kind of get more complicated as we go down the list. But when do you need to share this? What is your timeline? Usually there's like a go date. There's like a this change is happening on this date, or we need to tell people by this date. And then work backwards from your launch date. You don't have to add actual dates right now if you don't have a calendar in front of you. That that's fine, but work backwards and think about, okay, if I'm going to be announcing this to the company, before I announce it to the company, I need managers to know. Before managers know, I need the exec team to all be bought in and have the exec team aligned. Before I can communicate this with the executive team, I need to share it with the HR team to make sure that the HR team is all ready to support the exec team. Before I personally share things with the HR team, I need to get all of my information by testing this out with my stakeholder group or getting the information from my insurance broker or gathering all of my materials. So think about those cascading dependencies and consider things like time zones. Are you making a major company announcement and people are going to get it like almost a full 24 hours before other folks in the company because they live on the other side of the world? Think about existing events you could coordinate with or uh, product launches that this could tie in with. This is a good time to start thinking cross functionally and think about um, the where and the when as ways to collaborate with other teams, ways to kind of piggyback on things that other people are already sharing that people might be interested in. You know your company best. You know what kinds of things get people excited or what they pay attention to. Is this something that would work well at a company lunch or an offsite? Is this something that's time sensitive and you need to really build in buffers to make sure you hit that deadline? So write this down, really take a few minutes to to look at the date that the thing is happening. When is your comp cycle launching? When are people going to get the results of the compensation review? Okay, so then working backwards. Before people can get the results of the compensation review communicated, the review has to happen. What communications need to happen in order for that review to happen on time? Who do you need to talk to and when? And just write down, working backwards, make messy notes. It's totally fine. You always will edit your timeline, so build in buffers. We'll take just a couple of minutes for this. We'll sit in awkward silence because I can't turn on music and also present my deck. All right. And the last question in this is why does this even matter? I think this one can be, for me, it can be one of the hardest questions. I won't apply my own biases to all HR people everywhere, but I think for folks in HR, we can tend to care a lot about what we're doing. I care a lot about what I'm doing. And I feel like everything matters to me. I understand why it matters to me. But why does it matter to the person receiving your message? Often, and especially earlier in my career, I would get hung up on trying to convince people that something was important and saying, like, you have to pay attention to this, you have to do it because it's important and it matters to me and the company. But people are selfish. Humans are inherently selfish creatures. Why does this matter to them? Why should they care about it? So, yes, you know what comes next. Write down a few reasons why this matters to your audience, to your who, to your person that you chose for that you're focusing on for this activity. Why do they care? And I'll note that your why is going to be different depending on your employee persona. It's going to be different for executives than it is for a frontline worker. It's going to be different for someone who is directly impacted by the change versus someone who's indirectly impacted. But whenever you're sending a communication out, regardless of who you send it to, you have to make sure you're thinking about why this matters to the person who's receiving it. And this does mean that you customize your communications a bit more, right? You're not sending one communication to the whole company and that's it. This is why when you're sending it to seven different places, you might have seven slightly different messages for different personas. Your follow-ups might look a little bit different because you want to hit people with a story that they care about. If they care about it, they will remember it. Now I want to put it all together. Would love to get a volunteer from the audience to share their little story time. And if you've been following along with this workshop, you have all the answers to these questions. So as long as it's not proprietary or confidential or sensitive information, I would love a volunteer to share what what your story is. What is the story that you're telling? Joanna, I actually don't know how to take someone off of mute when I'm the host, but I feel like Joanna could help us if someone will volunteer. Otherwise, we're going to have no volunteers. It's going to be so sad.
Hello.
Hey, Heather, you're on.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
Yay. Thank you, Heather. You're a champion.
No problem. This one was actually quite convenient because I had already drafted something um, that I need to announce. So this aligned well to
Amazing.
think a
Amazing.
little
I
bit more
love helping you do
clearly
your
about
homework.
it.
Yes. Excellent.
So my what that I need to share is that we are rolling out a new comprehensive manager and leadership development program.
Hmm.
The who is our managers and our leaders.
Hmm.
The who crew would be my pops team because in tandem we're actually updating career ladders. So we want to
Mm.
align it nicely with our manager competencies that we've developed and updated.
Hmm.
And also, apparently some of my team are on here because they're slacking me right now.
They're like,
So
what? We're doing what?
this is also actually
Surprise.
one of my OKRs. So,
Amazing.
so also I have to communicate with the executive and leadership team before we actually communicate out to the broader management teams.
Hmm.
So the first will be during these working sessions I have with my team. Actually, we've been having them every single day just to align on a POPs level. Then at the leadership meeting team level, we need to roll it out to make sure everyone's good with the announcements, the dates, and what we're actually rolling out. We are very heavy async company, so everything that we do goes into Notion. So no doubt this will be in Notion as well.
Yep.
We also have policies around how we announce things depending on what they are. So this would most likely get announced via an email as well, and then just Slack notifications. So
Hmm.
those are the 5 ways in which we would communicate.
Awesome.
We would like to do it by mid-May just to give
Hmm.
managers some time to wrap their heads around it before they go into the performance period um, as well, so that they can think of their own performance in tandem with, coming up on development training.
Yep.
And then the why. So our managers and leaders have obviously a profound impact on the engagement, performance, and retention of all of our people. So we just think it's really important that if we keep telling them how important they are, that we actually support them in their development. And
Hmm.
in tandem with our new ladders, we want to make sure that they feel supported to be able to accomplish everything that we're asking our basic capabilities of theirs. So that is
Awesome.
the why.
Awesome. Are you planning on also sending something out to the broader company about this going on, or is this sort of private to management?
We will. We wanted to focus the initial training on managers. We are trying to think of how it's going to come across that we're only focusing on the managers and the leaders for
Hmm.
training versus company wide training.
Hmm.
We just prioritized after kind of assessing internally that our biggest area that we think would make the biggest impact and value are our leaders and managers. We would love to do
Hmm.
company-wide employee training as well, but that's a place we're just not at right now. But we
Totally.
are a very transparent company, so most likely, yes, we would announce to the broad
Yeah.
community as well.
I was gonna say it's very, it's really common, specifically around this kind of topic where it's like we're rolling out this type of training and it only applies to this group. It's pretty common with communications then to focus on that group that's receiving the training gets the message, right? The group that's receiving the changes to their scheduling protocol gets the message about the scheduling protocol. But I always try to challenge companies to think about it's one way to demonstrate transparency if you're a very transparent company is to take that into your communications. And even though this training is leadership specific and it's not yet available to all employees, is there a channel where you might share, not at the same cadence as you would for the people who are participating, but like at an all hands or in a company newsletter or on the Notion page, somewhere to share, hey, we're offering this training to leaders and managers. Here's why we're doing it. Here's what it's going to entail. And eventually, we hope to roll out similar trainings across the company. Um, I think, especially if there are people on your team, think about like the potential audiences. If there are people who are maybe interested in growing into leadership, but wouldn't want to grow into leadership if they weren't going to have training, right? Or they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Seeing that you are a company that supports management and leadership with training, even if they're not getting to receive the training right now, can also help people feel more connected to the company. Knowing that their manager is going to be getting training can help people feel more connected to the company, and it also helps set those expectations too. I think with things like leadership development, that like if I have a problem with something my boss is doing, like I know that they're receiving some sort of a training, like that might make me think uh, they might be more open to feedback, or I could speak to someone about this thing that my boss is doing because I know that they're being trained. I know that the company is developing them versus an environment where I don't know, people can kind of get conditioned to think that like your boss is this infallible boss person that doesn't
Yeah.
receive mentorship and growth and coaching and stuff. Um, so it's not always going to be appropriate, obviously, to send a message to the whole company, but think about it as you're thinking about your messaging, especially if you are at a company that values communication or transparency or information sharing, whatever your value is that you call it, at all of your places. Um, I used to do this with I had a CEO who was very much about like siloed communication, was like everything was uh, a need to know basis. And instead of thinking about things on a need to know basis, I think of it more as a who would want to know, who might be interested in knowing. And if it's confidential, if it's, HR secret, if it's HIPAA protected, like anything that can't share, obviously don't. But who needs to receive the message and who might be interested in the message? Who should the message maybe be accessible to, even though they're not directly impacted? It adds another layer of connection to your communications and adds another layer of um, that visibility in your stories. But this is a great example. I love this example, and I love that we could help you do your homework a little bit today.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and it actually, I was thinking as you were advising on doing it company wide, we do 360 reviews as well. So actually gaining
Mm.
their insight to see if individual contributors are
Hmm.
actually seeing a change in not only their manager but other management throughout
Hmm.
the organization, just to see
Totally.
how much value we're actually
Hmm.
adding.
And if they know that their manager is receiving a training, they're more likely to be paying attention to behavior changes
Yes.
versus if they don't know to expect something, they might not even really be paying attention to it.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank
I know
you.
we're getting towards the end of our time, which is great because I'm getting towards the end of my slides. A final reminder that HR is more than a messenger. Often in HR, we feel like the messenger. We feel like the bearer of bad news, the bringer of good news that doesn't get celebrated. But you are more than a messenger. Great communications don't just inform people about what's going on, they resonate with people and they inspire people to act or behave differently. So, as a little breakdown reminder, start with the why, anchor all of your messages in purpose and meaning that connects people to not just the message, but the company. Use characters, share real voices, relatable examples if you can. Create your narrative arc. What is the challenge? What is the opportunity? What is I keep saying story, but what is the story you're telling people about it? Consider your tone and your timing. Think about the pacing of your messages. How often are you sending them? How clear are they? What is the emotional impact? How is it going to land with people? And then moving beyond super just the basic details. Think about how you can connect with people, how you can build trust, how you can align them with your culture, your values. You're not just sharing updates with people, you're helping to shape the culture. Part of what you do with communications is create the environment for people to have the knowledge they need, right? You're giving them the knowledge they need, but you're also building a culture of information sharing. It's a very powerful place to be. So go get them. You're going to do great. If you need more help, this is my website, patchworkportfolio.com. I'm available for, you know, consulting and whatnot. I feel very awkward about self promotion, but Pando said to do it, so I'm doing it. Business. So if you need more help, I'm available. And then we'll share this deck out afterwards because there's a whole bunch of worksheets. I'll just click through really quickly. There's a bunch of worksheets at the end to help you walk through this stuff on your own. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, I can stick around for a couple of minutes. And if not, enjoy the rest of your Pando Horizons. Yay!